If you are a thief, quit stealing. Instead, use your hands for good hard work and then give generously to others in need. This verse is for the thieves, especially those who are in the thieves who are with us in this mass, na wezi wenye wanatufuata kwa mtandao. Wezi mmesikia? Hapa kunao. Unaniangalia aje suspiciously? Ephesians 4:28. Nataka nisome tena ili wezi musikie. If you are a thief, quit stealing. Instead, use your hands for good hard work and then give generously to others in need.
The massive greed we are witnessing is shocking and heartbreaking. The violation of human rights and freedom of speech. We are appalled by the blatant recurring incidents of reported abductions, disappearances, torture, and killings of Kenyans. We also decry the increasing murder of women. This has caused great consternation, anger, and disgust. Many families are still grappling with the loss of their children who are brutally killed, injured, or went missing following what is referred to as the Gen Z demonstrations in June 2024.
After the Gen Z protest, Ruto run for help in Raila's camp. Even after that, things are not getting better. Suffering amongst Kenyans is increasing day by day. Catholic Church bishops yesterday condemned President William Ruto's administration over unexplained killings, abductions, widespread corruption, and a growing culture of deception.
Issues of concern. We, the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, feel compelled to voice our grave concerns regarding the troubling political climate that has gripped our country. We have made clear statements many times in the recent past with very little response from the government. Despite the calmness we are experiencing, there is a lot of anxiety, and most people are losing trust in the government. Consequently, we raise these important observations and concerns that should be addressed. The first, political wrangles. The political wrangles in the government have generated unwanted tensions and deepened divisions among our people. Further, it has created an environment of mistrust among the citizens and within the government itself. Number two, corruption and politics of self-interest. The elected leaders have been mandated to fulfill roles conferred to them by the Constitution. They are among the highest paid legislators in the world. We are troubled by their heightened insensitivity and irresponsibility in carrying out their tasks, allowing themselves to be captured and compromised in corrupt deals. Corruption may not always involve financial benefits, but the unjust use of position and authority or abuse of office.
The bishops, through the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, KCCB, criticize the government for fostering an environment where citizens have become accustomed to the lies propagated by politicians. Kenyans must learn not to applaud or validate the lies that politicians tell them, but rather must resolve to seek and be led by the truth, said Bishop Dominic Kimengich of Eldoret Catholic Diocese. Reading the KCCB statement, speaking at a press conference in Nairobi, the bishops directed their frustrations at elected leaders, accusing them of heightened insensitivity and irresponsibility in their roles, and claiming they have been captured and compromised in corrupt deals. We are about to get deeper. But before that, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. Leave a comment. How do you rate Ruto government out of 10? Thank you for turning in. Let's get more.
Many of these victims had raised concerns about rampant corruption within and outside the government. Who is abducting these people? And is the government unable to stop these abductions and killings? The government must protect the life of every human person in Kenya, as stipulated in our Constitution of the Republic of Kenya, Article 26. The government must take the lead in following the law, which the leadership took an oath to uphold and defend at all times.
Culture of lies, NHIF, unkept promises, and misplaced priorities. The culture of lies is swiftly replacing the integrity and respect that Kenyans deserve. Basically, it seems that truth does not exist, and if it does, it's only what the government says. Unfortunately, it seems that the Kenyans have helplessly tolerated the lies told to them constantly by politicians. Kenyans must learn not to applaud or validate the lies that the politicians tell them, but rather must resolve to seek and be led by the truth. When the government fails to fulfill its promises, particularly concerning payments to essential service providers, it harms vulnerable communities. This is the case with NHIF. The neglect of faith-based organizations, hospitals, now owed billions in dues, is an issue we have addressed constantly, even with the president. We recall the pertinent and resolved issues we have raised recently with the government: over taxation of Kenyans, the hiking of the missionary work permits, youth unemployment, regulations of the education system, especially the CBC and university loan scheme, the failure to constitute the IEBC, etc. We believe that genuine consultation of all concerned stakeholders in all these matters is necessary beyond the casual public participation. This culture of lies, unkept promises, and misplaced priorities is unacceptable and needs to be dealt with. Selfish agenda to extend the term of elected leaders. It is baffling that a bill proposing an extension of the 5-year term to 7 years is being considered, and apparently there are plans to rush it through the legislative system. A two-term limit of 10 years, as given by the current constitution, is ample time for any visionary political leader to leave a strong legacy if they perform.
Corruption may not always involve financial gain, but can also mean the unjust use of position and authority or abuse of office. The massive greed we are witnessing is shocking and heartbreaking, said KCCB chairperson Maurice Muhatia. He noted that Kenyan legislators are among the highest paid in the world. The bishops also decried the increasing incidence of killings, abductions, and disappearances, particularly the murder of women. This has caused great consternation, anger, and disgust. Many families are still grappling with the loss of their children who were brutally killed, injured, or went missing following Gen Z demonstrations in June 2024. They said, "Who is abducting these people, And is the government unable to stop these abductions and killings? The government must protect the life of every human person in Kenya. It must uphold the law, which its leaders swore to protect. The bishops added. In response to the proposed extension of term limits for elected leaders, the bishops called it a selfish agenda, suspecting there are plans to rush the proposal through the legislative process. We need to critically scrutinize this political move. We question the motivations behind this agenda and the long-term interests it serves. We strongly condemn this retrogressive and manipulative thinking, Bishop Kemengich said. Instead, the bishops urged the government to focus on pressing issues, such as the troubled competency-based curriculum, CBC, education system, healthcare services, reconstitution of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, IEBC, the high rate of youth unemployment, and widespread corruption.
We need to critically scrutinize this political move. We question the motivation behind this agenda and the long-term interests it serves. We strongly condemn this retrogressive and manipulative thinking. Let us not create problems where there are none. We have matters of national concern, such as the crumbling CBC education system, healthcare services, reconstitution of the IEBC, a huge block of educated but unemployed youth, and fighting the monster of corruption, among others, that are surely top priorities. Overtaxing Kenyans. We all know that the government raises its revenue primarily through taxes. Our problem is that Kenyans are being unreasonably overtaxed by the continued myriad of new tax regimes that are constantly emerging from day to day. It seems to be a hidden way of reintroducing the rejected Finance Bill 2024. We must listen keenly to the cry of the Kenyan people. The current tax regime is already prohibitive and burdensome. As Catholic bishops, we have many times reminded the government of the need to put to good use all the collected revenue and live within its means.
Conclusion. We thank God for holding our country together despite the political and social upheavals. We pray that our leaders, guided by the values of justice, mercy, humility, selflessness, and honesty, provide good leadership and governance to our nation in accordance with God's will. What does the Lord God require of us and our leadership? As the prophet Micah says, I quote, "You have been told, O mortal man, what is good, and what the Lord requires of you, only to do justice, and to love goodness, and to walk humbly with your God." End of quotation from Micah chapter 6, verse 8. We invite all Kenyans and all people of faith to prayer, especially when we see that the tentacles of evil seem to be seizing our nation. We also invite our fellow Catholics, as we prepare for the Jubilee year of 2025, to pray for our country as pilgrims of hope. We are called to walk together, always keeping our gaze at the risen Christ with hope.
In a pointed statement, the bishops, through the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, KCCB, criticized the government for fostering an environment where citizens have become accustomed to the lies propagated by politicians. Kenyans must learn not to applaud or validate the lies that politicians tell them, but rather must resolve to seek and be led by the truth.
In these moments that we are living in this country, will help us reflect on one or two things that we all Kenyans must once more recalibrate, to realign our thoughts, our actions, our words, and our hearts. We are competing, unfortunately, in one evil, the evil of insults and lack of respect. We are competing in showing power in the way we impress that power, impose ourselves on others. We are competing in dishonesty. If only we would recover from this which the saints are giving us, that we start competing in honesty, in truthfulness, in service. This is what true leadership is about. It's thinking about the very poor, like Blessed Irene Stephanie Nyadha. It is thinking about lifting those who are mourning and grieving. It is about coming from our pedestals to the level of the people. In our country, Kenya, we must learn humility, especially in leadership. In our country, Kenya, we must learn service as our main concern by speaking about the issues of service that we are activating. We must activate concern for others and not concern for ourselves. Our leaders are thinking way too much about their image and about their future, and not thinking about the image of the poor, the needy, the miserable, the ones living in slums, the sick. With the shift of the NHIF to SHIF, we don't seem to have had that thought of the sick. People who die because they can't get services, that's our main concern. We must think about those who don't have shelter. We must think about those who are mourning their lost ones. We must think about even our fellow members of families who truly need our concern. Kenyans must now apply their heart and start applying their fists. We must unclench our fists to embrace, to touch, to uplift, and to bless. This is what saints teach us. This is what Christianity is. Not to clench, to open your palms, to embrace, to lift, to comfort, to bless. If we do that, we'll be better citizens, better humans, better leaders, and above all, better Christians. This is our prayer as Christians, that in these occasions like today, can we Kenyans find in us, in our hearts, the courage to do right, to love, to forgive, to uplift, and to tame our tongues. God bless you. I have no more to add.
Yeah.
Let's start by today's mass.
Connect with the other things. We are celebrating in the Catholic Church one more saint, a great saint, Saint Joseph Alemano, who is a founder of the Consolata Saints, Consolata missionaries. And they are some of the missionaries who worked very, very hard to bring the faith to us, starting from the faith in the Mount Kenya, the region of Meru, Nyeri, Murang'a, Nyahururu, Embu. The whole region was evangelized by Consolata. So we are celebrating so much the raising to the altars. Him being declared Saint Joseph Alemano is a big thing for all of us. And obviously here in Nyeri, we are also celebrating our own Blessed Irene Stephanie Nyadha, that great sister, religious woman who through her dedication served so much the people, not looking that we were in a time of colonialization, but she who was white Italian, and coming from a fairly well-off family, was not afraid to serve poor people who were not evangelized, who didn't know the faith, poor people, even those who were from the military, in the military hospitals. It's a great example of humility. And so today, as we celebrate these two great saints who have done great in the world and in the church, there are a few lessons we can also learn for our country. Great saints, great people, and great leaders. Because saints are fundamentally leaders, are people who are very humble. They are people who are self-sacrificing, and they are people who compete in service, in forgetting themselves. Saint Blessed Irene Nyanda would say, all for Jesus, nothing for me. This is the attitude of Christianity. Nothing for me, all for Jesus, all for the others. So these two great saints, in these moments that we are living in this country, will help us reflect on one or two things that we all Kenyans must once more recalibrate to realign our thoughts, our actions, our words, and our hearts.
When the government fails to fulfill its promises, particularly concerning payments to essential service providers, it harms vulnerable communities. The bishops warned, adding that despite the country's current calm, Kenyans are losing faith in the government. Other issues the bishops highlighted included increased fees for missionary work permits. We believe genuine consultation with all stakeholders is necessary on these matters, beyond the token public participation currently offered. This culture of lies, unkept promises, and misplaced priorities is unacceptable and needs to be addressed. They stated, the bishops' criticisms come amid a rift within the religious community. While some evangelical branches support the United Democratic Alliance, UDA, administration, mainstream churches have frequently called out the government's actions. Pro-government figures quickly responded to the KCCB's statement. Kapsaret MP and Ruto ally Oscar Sudi took to social media, writing, "It is dumbfounding to see Archbishop Anthony Muheria preaching the gospel on one hand and fanning tribalism on the other. Muheria lacks the moral authority to criticize the current regime because he is on record for backing the previous regime, even when it was clear it had failed Kenyans." A blogger, Gideon Kitheka, wrote on X, "The KCCB bishops led by Muheria are irresponsibly peddling falsehoods and undermining national progress. Their baseless accusations against Ruto's administration are shameful and unpatriotic. The government is performing admirably, and these divisive tactics must stop." The bishop's statement came a day after Azimio leaders, led by Wiper Party chief Kalonzo Musyoka, accused the government of failing to compensate families who lost loved ones due to police brutality during recent protests. We have come to an end of this video. Before we call it off, please subscribe to our channel, like this video, and turn on notifications. Leave a comment. How do you rate Ruto government performance out of 10? Thank you for turning in and watching our videos. Let's meet in our next video. Good luck.